This episode of the Irish Dance Podcast is being brought to you by Dunleavy Boyle Bremer Academy, inviting you to the New England Autumn Feis and Grade Exams, September 22nd and 23rd in Boston. This two-day event features grade exams up to grade 12, music competitions, an Irish soda bread bake-off, a second chance prelim competition, a charity dance-off with proceeds to benefit the Fighting Sullivans, a charity dedicated to Claire Sullivan TCRG's battle with cancer, and of course a North American Feis Commission approved championship. This is the 8th annual Feis, featuring a diverse panel of adjudicators, renowned musicians and competitors from all over the Irish dancing world. Dunleavy Boyle Bremer Academy looks forward to seeing you in beautiful New England this September. For more information, please go to southshoreIrishdance.com. My name is Martin Percival, and you are listening to the Irish Dance Podcast, folk dance to phenomenon and beyond. Hi everyone, I'd love to introduce our guest today. She is an Irish dance teacher. She has an Irish dance studio owner business, which is a business coaching product for Irish dance teachers. So I would love to welcome Erin Cooney. Hi Erin.
Hi Martin.
How's it going?
Good to be here. I'm doing great. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks. Not too bad. So this is exciting for me because I haven't had anybody who is a teacher with C.R.N. Before on the podcast. And I'm hoping to open the podcast to the whole Irish dance world, of course. So I obviously don't expect you to be the voice of C.R.N. You are an individual teacher and studio owner, but I'm really looking forward to your perspective on the Irish dance world. So welcome.
Well, great. Yes, thank you. I'm excited.
So how did you get involved in Irish dance to begin with?
Okay, so I had to think about this one because I definitely don't have that direct path of my parents just signed me up for Irish dance lessons. It was a little bit more challenging when I first started to find an Irish dance teacher, and I lived in a small rural community in Minnesota. I grew up on a farm, so this was kind of one of these big dreams of mine to someday go to Ireland and learn how to Irish dance. And really, I didn't get training from it. I started with a TCRG, and I didn't start that weekly class until I was 11 years old. So my Irish dance journey, though, I always say really started when I was about 4 years old, because my community in Minnesota is very proud of their Irish heritage. And so every St. Patrick's Day, we have this huge parade, we have this huge celebration. And of course, for a young child growing up in a small community, there weren't very many large celebrations like this. And this was the best celebration for everyone to go to. And regardless if they had any Irish heritage, they went to this celebration. So we had our, float in the parade with our Cooney clan float. And then, we would dance the night away to Irish music in the American Legion Club in town. So my journey really started as like a 4-year-old, just loving the Irish music that I was listening to on St. Patrick's Day, and I really only danced to it once a year. So I would experience this Irish music and I would dance to it. And the reason I say 4 years old is the year I was 4 years old, I was dancing at St. Patrick's Day, and I was just doing my thing, enjoying the music. And all of a sudden I had this audience watching me, and I had all these people in the American Legion Club throwing coins at my feet because they loved my dancing. And here I am, a little 4-year-old going, wow, they love this. And I think, yeah.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. That started your entrepreneurial career, I'm sure.
It's so funny because I remember thinking in my head at 4 years old, I can make money at this. I think that was maybe my entrepreneurial path. And it was also just my realization of, how much joy I could bring to the world through dance. And my journey from there on was that my mom just had to put me in dance classes, but I didn't have access to an Irish dance teacher. So I did do the traditional ballet, tap, jazz type of route growing up. I did that for, 5 years. And eventually, by the time I was 11, one of our leaders of the St. Patrick's Day celebration in our hometown, went to the Twin Cities, which is kind of that commute for us from the rural community, like everything you can find in the Twin Cities, right? And I think there was maybe 1 or 2 TCRGs in the state of Minnesota at the time. I could be wrong on that, but I know there weren't very many at the time. This was probably back in like 1991 or 92. And he found someone, and her name was Katie Griffin, and she had just recently moved to Minnesota from Ireland. And she was willing to drive the 45 minutes to our community to offer Irish dance classes. And so that's when my training experience began, and I absolutely loved it. And about a year or 2 later, maybe a year and a half later, she moved away. So I had this pit in my stomach of the fact that I had just found something, we had just found this teacher, and I didn't know what I was going to do from there because I absolutely loved Irish dance. So my journey kind of went on. I kind of put Irish dance on the back burner, thinking, well, it's just not a possibility for me living in this rural community. My parents can't be driving me to the Twin Cities every week for these Irish dance lessons. But I just enjoyed dancing what I knew, which is really my beginner dances, right? Like I knew my reel, my slip jig, my light jig, and I just kept dancing them every year at St. Patrick's Day to entertain audiences in our small town. So, fast forward a little bit to when I was about 15 years old and Riverdance came on the stage, right? Came on the scene.
Right.
And I was that sought out performer. Like everyone knew me as the Irish dancer, but all I knew was my beginner dances. So I started performing quite a bit. I was asked to teach Irish dance lessons to schools, to physical education classes, to summer camps, to dance studios, ballet, tap, jazz studios that wanted an Irish number in their recital. And this just became this huge thing that the word of mouth got out that I knew how to teach and I knew how to perform Irish dance. So that was kind of my journey. And because of the fame of Riverdance, it just kept getting more and more that I got involved in the world of Irish dance. And when I went to college, and after I graduated college, I just still had this huge passion for Irish dance. I had literally been doing pretty much only my beginner dances. I was able, my senior year of high school, to take some private lessons with Brenda Buckley, who was in TCRG in Minnesota as well. So I had learned a treble reel step here or there from her. But once I graduated from college, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And I was looking for a job, and I thought, well, I could teach Irish dance, what I know of Irish dance, what I know so far. And that was really it. It was, I was looking for a way to bring in some extra income out of college, and having this skill really, helped me throughout my lifetime, being able to get these part-time gigs, jobs. And then I started teaching from there. So that was back in 2002. I started teaching Irish dance and on a weekly basis. And that's when it all started.
Well, I have about 8 million questions for you, because your journey is obviously very different from mine, and it's very different from a lot of Irish dancers, but it's still similar in the fact that you have a love for Irish dance and you want to help promote it, and you want to help teach, you want to make some money out of it, you want to be a business owner. It's just that the journey was a little different. I find it fascinating that even in a rural community, there's an Irish, culture and pride and all of this. But it does speak to the fact that I don't think there's enough outreach in terms of teaching that we can connect to as many people in the country as possible.
Yes, and even still in my rural community where I grew up, there is not a local Irish dance teacher. They would have to drive at least a 30-minute drive to find an Irish dance school. So this is, that's how many years later? I mean, what is this, 20 years later or plus? And there still isn't an Irish dance teacher available to the kids that grow up in the community I grew up in.
So why do you think that is then? Because I know that when I first started teaching in Denver, I was told the community, the Irish dance was saturated, and basically I wasn't needed. And I found that frustrating and a little bit insulting, and also just wrong, because I came from London where there was teachers on every corner, so I just think the more people that are teaching it, the more people see it, the more people want to learn it. But there is these huge amounts of communities that don't have any access to it, that any new teacher that's coming around should start looking at them. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are several communities that don't have access to Irish dance, and I don't ever feel it will necessarily be saturated. I mean, I look at the ballet, tap, jazz, dance studios, and, they're everywhere as well. And there's still kids that want to dance in certain communities that don't have access to that, even though people would say that's saturated. So, I mean, we live in a large world, and there's a lot of communities where families just simply out of convenience, especially if they have multiple children. I mean, I have 2 kids, and convenience reigns. I mean, we can't be driving everywhere for each one of our kids. And I think that the idea that it's saturated, I don't feel like it's saturated at all. Definitely.
No, I completely agree. So that brings up a couple of things, which I'm glad you said. Convenience is key. I know when I was teaching that it was up to me as the teacher to kind of revolve around different places in order to start capturing more people. And then once they get involved and they take it more seriously, then they can travel, then they'll decide to travel. But as beginners, it needs to be on your doorstep. So there's that, which I think is important for new teachers or even older teachers to realize that we need to be the ones that travel as teachers. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that it just, yes, I completely agree. It's not saturated. And I just think you have a unique perspective coming from the ballet, tap and jazz, background, because there's a huge amount of potential, I feel, for Irish dance teachers to be able to have a dance studio that then offers everything. Yeah.
And, for myself, I've thought of that as well. And for me, I want to keep digging deeper into offering more of what Irish dance can provide. So even though sometimes I think the grass could be greener offering ballet and tap and different things at my studio, for me specifically, I've found that I just want to keep digging deeper. How can I offer figure team now? How can I offer more Ceilidh teams now? How can I offer a professional track for dancers who want to eventually be in those traveling shows, and offer a competitive track? So for me, I've just been trying to dig in deeper, because I feel like this full wide array of experience at an Irish dance studio is hugely beneficial for the kids that just start and they don't know which track they're going to go down. And they may just choose my studio, but they may find out later that the competitive track wasn't for them and they want to be more of a professional dancer or things like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a huge amount of sense. And I really appreciate the way you've put it in terms of tracks, because I really do think that as Irish dance teachers, we have one track, which is competition. And then as my personal journey then went on to a professional track. But I know that because of the largeness of the community or the opportunities that are available, I do agree with you, and I think that there should be several tracks offered at every location. I know it's not for every teacher to be a non-competitive teacher and a Ceilidh teacher and all of this, but I think that we could definitely, as an industry, start offering more opportunities or more offshoots, so to speak. So I really like where your head is about all of this. So just in terms of being accepted by the dance community in general, this would help, because it doesn't necessarily have to be then about competition and all of that.
Yeah, and we have brought in guest artists from ballet tap studios, and it's because of those dancers who want a more professional track. And I really feel like they should be exposed to that, and they should be learning those other dance forms if they want to do that. And I'm not a professional dancer, but I do feel like it serves them well to have those dance forms, but they may want more of the culture of an Irish dance studio as opposed to going to a ballet tap jazz studio to get that training. It just feels more comfortable inside your own doors because you have specific values at your studio and it feels comfortable for the kids. So it's great to bring in instructors to teach them some of those other types of dance styles.
Absolutely. But the key is that, and you said it right there, and thank you so much for your honesty and your humility, is that you said that you're not a professional Irish dancer. So you would then, if your students want that track, then you would bring somebody in to coach them or teach them or master classes or whatever, however it is described. But that's how they do it in the dance world. It's just like if there's a discipline you want to learn, then you learn from a master. And it just I'm not going to get worked up about this, but it does bug me a little that there's no cross promotion of Irish dancers, so we can't really have other people just coming around and doing masterclasses and that kind of thing, because then there's associations in terms of the competition rules. And I feel like we're missing out as an industry. We're really missing out on doing what would be the best for the dancers. And that's where we need to come from, first and foremost, is that we're supposed to be promoting the art of Irish dance. And, if you can't do that, then it makes it really difficult for any dancers to go on any track then.
Yeah, and I think just collaboration in general, whether it be with a ballet tap, schools or other Irish dance schools, I think there are a lot of people in the Irish dance community that want more collaboration, and hopefully we're moving in that direction.
So how would you, if you could rule the world for a while and see the perfect situation for Irish dancers, what would it look like then in terms of the collaboration?
Well, I think what you said is just putting the dancer first and putting the student first, really. What is going to serve the students the best? And I think you talk a lot about how Irish dance offers all these wonderful life lessons. And, what I've seen is that it completely transforms the lives of these students. They fall in love with Irish dance, and then the ability to choose their track, they're able to meet all of these other amazing, talented artists, whether they're professional Irish dancers, whether they're world champion dancers, whatever that is, just having more access to those people to be inspired by. And I guess I don't know exactly what the rule of the world would look like, but I think it's just literally more collaboration and having discussions like this. This is why I thought your podcast was amazing, is that it's just, I think a lot of it has to do with discussions about, what is best for Irish dance going forward and what is best for the children going forward. And what does that look like?
Yeah, and I find it fascinating because I know that there's a huge potential in the Irish dance world for us to really put down some groundwork and roots in terms of being an established dance form especially in North America. I think there's a huge amount of potential for it. So I like everything that you're saying, and I think in terms of the collaboration, we're just so used to being I guess, insular in terms of competition as teachers. But I just did a little project because I had to do a brief history of Irish dance at a summer camp. And, so I just did a little bit of research about, dance masters and that kind of thing. And that's essentially what it was, is that they went around to different villages and taught people how to dance in large groups, So there always was a collaboration. I just think recently it's kind of stopped or has been controlled a little bit more, and I would just be really excited to see what we could do as Irish dancers if we did collaborate a lot more.
Yeah, and I think that the schools that choose, and this is key too, I feel like we need to say, is that the schools that choose to be non-competitive, they still want to collaborate, and they still want to have a say in the art form. And I think sometimes people think that people that are non-competitive aren't being involved, but they play a major role as well as where this art form will go. And I think cross collaboration between organizations is really important too. And that's where I'm trying to jump in and kind of say, can we collaborate as teachers from different organizations and non-competitive schools and start this conversation about, how can we make this where we want it to go, instead of just kind of letting it happen. I know you've talked about different things that maybe you don't agree to, where Irish dance is going, and everyone will have their own opinion, but I think the discussion collaboratively is helpful.
Yes, and that's a really good point, and thank you for saying that, because it just I'm guilty of it, obviously, as well, because I'm involved in the commission Irish dance, competitive world, and we get very kind of narrowly focused on that. And I do think that competition hones the skill, but it's not the only way that we hone our skills. And yes, more collaboration across organisations and other dance forms, in my mind, would be an ideal world. It's just we do have some egos involved, and we have people that want to control it, and which is all well and good. I do understand all of that, because they want to make sure they have their place in the world. But like we had said, if you put the dancer first, if we want to be able to offer the best dance education for future generations of Irish dancers, then collaboration, in my mind, is absolutely vital.
And every organization in every school is going to offer something different for children. And, there are certain families who are looking for specific things in an Irish dance school. And in Irish dance, and there's certain teachers that are looking for certain things in an Irish dance organization to be involved in. And I personally think it's great that there are these options. Now, it may not have been ideal when organizations started splitting, and I'm sure that was a very stressful period in the Irish dance world when different organizations came out of commission, and that whole period. But I think now it's serving our students well, because it is worldwide, and it's allowing more kids to dance and more options for kids as well, as far as if they want to be kind of that elite, high athlete competitive track, or if they want a recreational class.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the organisations have they offer a different voice. Absolutely. What, in terms of a non-competitive track, then, what does that look like for your students? Well,
for our students, we don't push competition, but we prepare them for it. And so for some of our students, they start competing, maybe at 7 years old, but other students we have don't start until they're maybe 13 or 14. And we really allow that to be up to the parents. And some of our students never compete. I'm still working with that. Our school is still young in a sense. I mean, we're 7 years old with my school. We have currently have 94 dancers. And, the more students we get, kind of the more we can offer to the students. And, I want to have enough competitive dancers so that we can have competitive teams. But the dancer that would like to be recreational and perform, I've seen such great things from these students. And typically our recreational student is someone who's really driven in school and has a lot of homework. And they are looking for an outlet, but they want a high-level outlet. They're not looking to compete it, but it's more of a a personal goal-setting thing for them. And they would not be happy in just like what you would necessarily call a recreational class. They want high achievement, but they're not going to be able to commit to the schedule of a competitive dancer because these are our future doctors. These are our future surgeons. There are future people that are heading down a track in their profession where their schooling is intense. And so, part of
Absolutely.
Our school is offering Irish dance to those students who are amazing dancers. And you can look at them and go, I can't believe they're not competing because they'd be winning but I'm not pushing them. It's their own track. It's what's going to serve them best. And I just want them to have an amazing, experience at our school.
Absolutely. And well done for that. I think that's absolutely amazing because firstly, you remove we all as teachers, if we see good dancers, we're like, oh my God, I really want them to dance, because it's then a reflection of us and it's the ego and all of that. But because we want them to achieve what is possible in terms of competition. But I love what you're saying about high level and high achievers being in a recreational class, because that's not what we think of when we think of as recreational Irish dance. And it should be, there should be that option as well. So what is in terms of the recreational class curriculum then, or your syllabus, how is it just the same? How do you structure that?
We structure it the same as a competitive dancer. So that's where, if they choose that they want to compete, some of those dancers we found, of course, there's not a good term for those dancers, right? We're saying recreational, but they're high level achievers. If they choose to compete, a lot of them I have found at my school really want to compete in teams. So they have this kind of personal track. They're learning their solo dances alongside competitive dancers, and they're noticing the technique that they need to keep improving on, because they're dancing right alongside those world qualifying dancers. And when they choose to compete, their solos might not be their driver. It's more that they love to dance and they want the experience of competition with their classmates. So we've found that it's really been a good push into teams, is that they may not be a competitive dancer, but then they want to do teams.
I just find the whole thing fascinating. Even the you just saying we don't have the right name for these dancers. So maybe we should come up with that, because there is a stigma involved, I believe, if you're not a competitive dancer, because it's seen as crazy. Yeah, why aren't you doing it? But you're absolutely right. If these students are incredibly busy with other aspects of their life, but they still want to achieve this at a high level, I think it's it's up to us. The onus is on us as teachers to provide that. But I know from experience that the vast majority of teachers can't be bothered to teach dancers who aren't going to compete.
Yeah. And I get that. And I think, there's definitely schools that I feel like that makes sense for them, and I think for my school, I just want to offer something for these students that want that high level achievement without the push to compete. And I've had a lot of families, thank me that we're not pushing the competition, and that it kind of flows naturally for the child. Sometimes children too, they're just not driven competitively till they're at a certain age, or all their friends are doing it and they want to be involved. And so, I think my biggest concern with my students is that I can definitely let them choose, but I would never want it to be a deterrent. If they're coming in and they say they want to be a world champion dancer, I don't think it's right to serve them well to say, well, you can choose to start competing whenever you want to. I would say we should get them started competing right away. So I think if they know that going in, you can help them. But sometimes these kids, they come in the door, they're not really sure what they're going to enjoy the most. And, a lot of our kids, man, they just love performing in the community. I mean, that is just the biggest joy in their heart, is to perform for their family and friends in our community. And that is the best gift we could have ever given them, is the opportunity to learn to Irish dance, to do that.
Absolutely. And we don't know where the expression, if we teach some dancers to Irish dance, we don't know where they're going to take that expression to. And I just think it's beautiful that you're looking from a dancer's perspective. So it's just, what's going to be the best thing in terms of their goals, in terms of their body, in terms of their education, so that's, in my mind, I think that's absolutely brilliant. But so if we can talk about teaching then for a bit, I think perhaps, I'll speak for myself, because when I was teaching competitively, I wanted to achieve a high level, and I did. My students went to the World Championships. I had one boy, we placed quite highly. I think the highest place was 6th at the World Championships, which is great, all brilliant, but it's not as fulfilling as some might seem, or some might imagine. I was always interested in, well, how is it that we actually teach? How is it that we actually train dancers to dance? And I just think in terms of being teachers, we are not taught how to teach. We're not schooled in teaching techniques or education or creating syllabi or creating curriculums or any of that. We're not taught any of that. And I just think we're missing a vital component of what it is to be a teacher.
Yeah. And, on my college, when I went to college, I took a lot of education classes. My initial track was to become an elementary education teacher. So I did feel very lucky that I had that foundation under me when I first started teaching. And the gap that was missing was, knowing more about Irish dance history, which was huge for me. I didn't feel like I could teach Irish dance without understanding who came before me and what was happening prior to me starting to teach. And because I didn't grow up in Ireland, I didn't know these historical things, and so for me, when I was doing my teacher training for O.D.C.R.N, it was a 5-year program for me. I had a lot to learn, and that really helped me. And then I learned how to, through that training program as well, I learned how to break down steps and how to teach Kaylee, how to script it so that I'm making sure that I'm saying the right things. Oh my gosh, when I did my Kaylee exam, I kept saying, grab your partner's hand. And they're like, grab, that's a horrible term, Erin. You need to take, the ladies take the gents take the lady's hand or whatever. I had these bad habits or whatever, but and using the same terms when you teach every skill and things like that. So for me, I had a lot of that basic knowledge about how to teach children through my college program of becoming an elementary teacher. So I was really grateful for that. And then the gap that I needed was the skills and how to teach, Irish dance. And then I got that from O.D.C.R.N. So what I didn't have, though, Martin, was the business background. So that's where I'm kind of jumping in now. I mean, I have dove into learning how to become a business owner now for the past 7 years running my studio. And that was the huge gap missing when I started my studio. So there's 3 components there, definitely.
Yes, yeah, and we'll get to that business ownership thing in just a moment. But I just want to wrap up this teaching thing because I think it's really important for the listeners and anybody who wants to get involved and maybe wants to teach Irish dance in the future. There is this huge, I would say, kind of void of knowledge that we all know how to dance. We know how to. We've been taught by our teachers, who were taught by their teachers. So not having, or we may have workshop teachers that come in and do some. So you do get a little bit of extra information from other instructors, but generally it's 1 or 2 people, or if you've got a large school, maybe 6 or 7 teachers. But they're, it's all on the same track. So what I'm saying is that there's no kind of national curriculum for how we teach Irish dances. There's no standard terminology, and all of this stuff has to be learned very quickly by anybody who wants to become a teacher. That it's just like you're on your own, basically, and you have to figure it out yourself. So, it's tough. It's really tough as teachers. And of course, a lot of people, and myself included, would probably say, well, you have to pay your dues, you have to, respect who came before you and this, that and the other. But I don't believe we are benefiting or progressing the industry or the art form if we don't help people to be able to pass on this information, So anyway, that's just my little...
Well, and I was going to just pop in there and say, I think a lot of Irish dance school, academy owners, teachers, they're reluctant to teach the little children as well, because there's this huge classroom management piece that comes in. I think you just said you taught some little ones as well, and recently at a camp. And, I think a lot of Irish dance teachers don't teach the little ones because there's a huge classroom component to that. There's a huge role of being a teacher and having that background of working with children and education and how to speak to children and that type of thing. And so when you're talking about being a teacher, I definitely think that, like I said, my college training helped me. And yeah, there is just definitely a gap there in how to work with children, how to structure a class.
When I first started teaching, I had no clue. I had no clue about. I only knew how to manage a class because of how my teacher managed a class, and that was she's an amazing teacher, but there was a lot of shouting, and that doesn't, that worked for her back in the day, back in the early 80s, late 70s, and that was fine. But yeah, I did. I had a summer camp, and I had 3-year-olds, and there's very different group of children to teach, and luckily there were 2 assistants in the class, and they were kind of gently guiding me, asking me questions so that I could then very quickly get on the level that I needed to be on in order to be able to communicate with these tiny little wonderful people, and they were so loving. These kids really wanted to learn, and they're just beautiful, like they're just full of love. I was like, well, what can I teach a 3-year-old? And of course, it turned at the end. It just turned around, and it was like we were an Irish penguin, because I wanted them to have arms by their side and toes turned out, and we were jumping around and stuff like that. They had a great time, but it was all I don't have enough experience as a teacher of that age group to. But like I said, luckily there were a couple of assistants, and they really held my hand, and we had a great time. But yeah, there is the whole classroom management thing. When I first started teaching, I was clueless. I thought it just needed to be, I came from a English Catholic school, and it was just you needed to be as strict as possible. And that I found over the years. I taught for 10 years in Denver, and by the end of it, I enjoyed the beginner classes a lot more, because it was more about expression. It was more like I got more on the level of the kids and understood how it is that they were learning. So then my classes were structured very differently before I stopped teaching than they were when I first started teaching. But that I had to learn by myself,
Yeah. And, kids need the consistency of a structure you're going to stick with, but you also can't use your structure for your, 15-year-olds as your 3-year-olds class. And, a quick tip for teachers was really think about the average age of your class and, how old are they? So they're 3-year-olds. Well, then you need to kind of change the track of what you're doing every 3 minutes. So you have to have a lot of ideas when you're working with 3-year-olds to keep their attention span. That's where it can be discussed. That's a great tip. And yeah, I did find that very quickly. And when I was teaching 3-year-olds, so how do you work it out then? So the average age, and then that's the amount of minutes? Yeah, that's the amount of minutes that ideally that kind of their attention span that you'd want to be switching to maybe a different activity. And, with our children's classes, it was okay, we're going to dance to this music for 3 minutes, and then we're going to practice counting the music in a circle, and then just changing up stuff, right? Now we're going to whisper how we count the music. Now we're going to say it as loud as we can, and that does take a lot of energy, and it's definitely not something that comes naturally to people. There's definitely training and working with the little kids.
Absolutely. So for the listeners out there, if anybody's involved or wants to be involved in kind of coming up with a curriculum for Irish dance teachers, I think that would be amazing. Just as a side note out there, put it out to the universe. I just think with all the experience that we have in the Irish dance world, we could come up with some really great stuff. Anyway, so to move on to the business side of things. So you actually run a business that helps other Irish dance studio owners, right? Correct. Yes. How does that work then? Well, basically, I work with Irish dance studio owners to help them really see their studio or their school, their academy,
as a business. And so a lot of us start as teachers and we get our first, 30 students. Once we get to like that 50 students number, we can start feel like it's kind of overtaking our lives, right? And we love it, right? We love it. So, we don't think it's a negative thing until it starts wearing on our health, or it starts wearing on our relationships, or if we feel like we're giving up on our other dreams of our life. Like, for me, it was, I didn't want to give up on the dream that I want to have children, but how was I going to be an Irish dance teacher and continue to teach when I have to take, 6 months off on maternity leave? How's that going to leave my students? When I can't travel to a competition with them because I'm 9 months pregnant or something like that. And all of these things happened to me, and I had to work ways through them to still be serving my students and still live the life of my dreams apart from Irish dance. Because for me, this was my career, and I definitely wanted to give everything to it. But I also I had these other dreams in my life, and I didn't want to give up on everything else. And so it was just, I know there's a lot of Irish dance teachers who go through this, and it's great when you start building your school, but there are certain numbers that you get with each milestone. You get 50 students, 75 students and whatnot. Different problems that come up, even though it's great that you're getting more students, but then you have to figure out how to delegate some things. You have to start looking at it as a business, or you have to decide, that you're going to keep your school or your small so that you can handle it just on your own.
Yeah, yes, it's amazing. It's like you read my mind. Absolutely, that all of those problems do happen when you're teaching. So how can you help people then?
Well, basically, I talk to people over the phone. My first call that I offer to people is about 45 minutes, and we just discuss, where are they currently at with their Irish dance teaching? Where do they want to be? Where do they want to get to? Or if they don't know exactly what that vision is, what is their current struggle? And, it could be that, things are going great at their studio, but all of a sudden, they have, someone in their family, in their immediate family, has bad health and they want to spend more time with them. How are they going to take time off now because they're committed to teaching every night? Or, things pop up in life, and just it's talking to people about what their struggles are right now. And it might just be that they want more students and they've been stuck at 50 students for the last 5 years, and their dream is to get a bigger school. How can they get there? And so for me, it's just listening and knowing I've been through a lot of these different stages, and luckily successfully gotten through quite a few of them with different challenges, and just kind of working with them from there to kind of give them clarity over what that next step would look like. How can you get to 60 students? Let's do this, that kind of thing.
I think that's amazing. I know when I was teaching, you feel like you're on an island and you're all by yourself and you can't really ask anybody else for help, especially in the Irish dance world, because we want to maintain our competitive edge, blah, blah, blah. I don't want people to know how you teach or what you're doing. I know a few friends of mine who have had some sort of, studio ownership kind of, Facebook groups or mentorships and this, that, and the other. And it generally is from people who are not involved in the Irish dance world. So, just the fact that you do this coming from the Irish dance world is great, because you have an intimate knowledge of the problems that face Irish dance teachers.
Yeah, and, I've been part of free Facebook groups, too, for dance studio owners, and it's definitely been beneficial to me. The downfalls have been some of the negativity that gets posted in some of those groups. So, I wanted to create a group that was very positive and uplifting and motivating, and people are collaborating, like I've said. So I've learned a lot of great things from other dance studio owners, and I've had mentors that, own ballet, tap, and jazz studios that have mentored me to get me to this place, because I didn't have anyone that was specific to Irish dance that could mentor me. So I truly believe in mentors, and there's no way I could have gotten to where I'm at where I'm at now without a business coach or a mentor. So I just think it's important because it is different with Irish dance schools. And sometimes we don't think it's possible with Irish dance schools because we are looking at potentially having fewer students than some of these huge dance studios where they're talking about having 400 students. And we're talking about our goal being, 100. And these dance studio owners with ballet, tap, and jazz think, well, how can you make it with 100 students? Well, it's kind of because it's a different business model.
Yes, and it's also a different mindset, right? So I really I appreciate the fact that we're talking here about a mindset. I think in life, we always need mentors and we always need coaches. Somebody who is one step or 10 steps ahead of us in our journey, on our journey. We always need to be looking to those people. So there is a gap in the Irish dance world for that mentorship, and so you're stepping into that role, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So how? You run it as a business, right? So you charge people for mentorship?
Yeah, so I'll meet with someone for the first time at no charge just to kind of see where they're at and see if it is specifically something I can help them with. Most of the time I can, but I always want to do that call to make sure before they start paying me to help them. But yeah, so I'm running it as a business. And for me, it was just the next step. Like when you're a dancer, the next step is either to become, a teacher or a professional dancer. And for me, that adjudicator step was not going to be my next step. And I started down the road of training to become an adjudicator. And I thought, this really doesn't fit with my lifestyle goals right now. I want to be home with my children. I don't want to be traveling to competitions, and I don't want the pressure to travel to competition if they need me. So I really still wanted that next step. And for me, this was kind of what I thought of because I can work from home and I can meet with people and I can be available to them without having to be traveling all around the country. And eventually I may be an adjudicator, but I really felt like I could help people going down this track.
Well, okay, there's a couple of things there. You want to help people, so that's amazing to start with. There is a need for a service that you provide, because we basically, as Irish dance teachers, don't have any mentorship in terms of growing a business and that kind of thing. So there is a need for it. So you're providing a service, and that's the definition of entrepreneurship, right? Isn't it that you just you provide an answer to a problem or a solution to a problem for money? So you definitely should be paid for the work that you do because you're providing an excellent service. And again, I guess it just depends on what the goals are for the individual teacher. But to me, it seems like, because I'm involved in the real estate world, so I have a real estate coach, and I have my goals in terms of what my real estate business wants, what I want it to look like. So they help me get there. And it's just being able to talk to somebody else who's not in your own head, right? So It's just somebody who can look at your business unemotionally and like map out the next steps for you. So I think you're providing an excellent service, and I think it's great. I just think for Irish dance teachers, there's a tiny bit of a mindset shift needed, because I'm going to tar everyone with the same brush here, but we are very much wrapped up in our own ego, which is fine, because that's where we came from, competition world. It's about you. It's about how you perform. But when you're teaching, we need to disassemble the ego, because it's not about us then. So, but what I like about your service is that you can just help somebody map out whatever direction they want to take their business in, right?
Right. And like I said, everyone has different struggles, but even when they in the Facebook group, I talk a lot about, having this different mindset, looking at your dance studio, your Irish dance school academy studio as a business owner. And it is very different than looking at it from the teacher aspect, because the teacher sees a successful studio as a successful competitive studio, most teachers. A business owner would look at it as, is this business helping me achieve my career goals? Is it profitable that I can impact the community? Different reasons for the business. And I think, businesses have kind of that product mission, but they also have that spiritual mission. And just kind of looking at it from a different mindset like that, I think helps you to make different actions to make sure that what you're doing is truly the best thing for you and for the students. Absolutely.
And I think all teachers would benefit from having that look, from just even taking a step back and having a look at why they are teaching, B, what it is that they want to accomplish, what legacy do they want to leave, and then looking at what success means to them. And I just think if we have more discussion about it, and there's more groups like your Facebook group and stuff like that, people will see that it's not necessarily, I had, 2 world champions this year that makes a school successful. It's like, no, I've paid, I'm financially free, or, I've been able to balance my life work goals and that kind of thing. There, like you said, there are very different definitions of success.
Yeah. And a big thing for me was that legacy studio, because, you can talk about my story that I shared with you earlier, was that my Irish dance teacher moved away after I only got a year and a half of Irish dance, and I didn't have access to another teacher. So you can imagine the heartbreak that I felt. And I know there are so many Irish dancers out there who have experienced the same heartbreak when either their teacher passes away, or their teacher moves on, or their teacher decides to just simply get married and is not able to teach anymore, because life happens. There's life stages that go on and occur, and they don't think, as teachers, we don't get into this thinking that someday I'm going to leave my students and they're going to be heartbroken. But I've taken in quite a few students of, other schools that have closed, or teachers who have moved away. And I would like to see less of that.
Yeah, I agree.
And, create a legacy so that, your studio can live on long after you decide to be teaching every evening.
Yeah, and that speaks very much to the spiritual journey that I believe we all go on. So if there are teachers or Irish dancers that want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I have the free Facebook group, and they can apply to be part of that. I've got just a really quick, easy link they can go to apply, and it's bit.ly/Irish Dance Studio Owners. Otherwise, my website is irishdancestudiowners.com.
Okay, and I'll put those links on my website on the show notes for this episode. So I just think it's great, because I really would like a lot of Irish dance teachers, if they feel like they're struggling, to be that there is a solution, that there is someone that they can talk to who is knowledgeable of the Irish dance world and can speak to their problems. So thank you for your service.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So is there anything else that you would like to talk about in terms of Irish dance in general?
In general, no, I appreciate discussions like this, like I said, because I think the more we talk about, even though people don't want to talk about their struggles, part of the Facebook group is people sharing their struggles so other people can help them get through it. And it just kind of goes back again to that collaborative approach to, helping lift each other up to achieve their goals as a collaborative group, and not seeing it so competitively.
Yeah, that just resonates with me, because I have been listening to this podcast, and the premise of the podcast is basically, it's about the Gallup Strength Finders, and the premise is basically that we're all perfectly lopsided. So we have areas where we have a lot of strengths, but most of the time we focus on what we perceive as our weaknesses. And I think for me, I would like to lean into and step into my strengths and be able to just have other people support me in the areas of my weaknesses. But you can't do that unless you can take a step back and look at a business. So having somebody who can be unemotional about my business and look at it and say, you need to do this, 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 and this is invaluable. So, I just think a lot of people can benefit from your product and service. So, right. Do you mind if we go on to our little rapid fire question section?
Oh, sure.
You've listened to the podcast, right? So you know what this is about.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm prepared for all these rapid fire questions.
This is Erin in a nutshell. What is your favorite food?
Oh gosh, I wasn't prepared for this one. I think I'd heard this one before. This is silly, but it's probably snack food like cheese, crackers, that type of spread.
Right, perfect. River dance or Lord of the Dance?
River dance.
Best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh man, maybe I wasn't prepared for all these, Martin. All right. Really, I would say my best piece of advice I've ever been given, I actually read out of a book. So I would say a lot of great advice comes out of books. So I would definitely say that. But I would say to not take anything personally because, especially Irish dance teachers, when we get into this journey, we start taking, criticisms of our program, different things and like that. And you just can't take it personally. And, some people will love you and some people won't love you. And you got to keep on your mission and keep going down your correct path. So that's what I would say. Don't take anything personally.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And just if we all remember that we're all on a different path and, comparing or contrasting with other people just doesn't work. Is there a book that has changed your life?
Yeah. I mean, for me, business-wise, it was when I read The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. And I read that back in 2013 when I was just starting my studio, and it completely transformed where I was going to go with my studio since then. So that would probably, be one of the biggest things.
Okay, I'll put a link for that as well. That's great. Okay, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh man, see, you say yes or no, and this feels like such a complicated answer for me. So I personally wouldn't order it myself, although I did, Martin, go through a phase where I consistently ordered pineapple on my pizza for whatever reason. But I currently don't. However, I do like it if there's barbecue sauce with it. I'm just not I'm not like a pineapple Canadian bacon girl, but I like it with barbecue sauce.
No, and that sounds great. That's a perfectly valid answer. Absolutely. And finally, Erin, any advice to aspiring Irish dancers, be it competitive, non-competitive, whatever label we're going to put on them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just be in tune to what you love best and notice who you're inspired by and just follow your own track.
I love that. Notice who you are inspired by. I think that's absolutely beautiful advice. So do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just been some kind of exercise I've done throughout my life is, I thought that, what I was going to do for my career or for my life, that I'd have to find this one person that had everything exactly how I would want it. And I just was never finding it as a child. But what I could do is I could list like the top 3 people that I was really inspired by, that I wanted to be more like. And then, as an exercise, just writing underneath, like, what is it about those people that I'm so inspired by or that I want to be like them someday? And it might just be the values that you see in them. It might not even be their profession per se, So I think just being more aware of who you're inspired by and then digging deeper into that will really help you clarify where you want to go on your journey.
I absolutely love that. It gave me goosebumps. It really does. It's just because I just think we need to take inspiration from where it comes, right? Because if you believe in a spiritual journey, to me, your intuition, the universe tells you where you need to be, and it provides clues and this, that, and the other. So by seeking out what it is that kind of makes your heart sing or gets you really pumped up, I think that's one way that we can honor our intuition. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Erin, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This was great.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Irish Dance Podcast. If you haven't already, please go to iTunes or your favourite podcast app and subscribe to our podcast. That would be great. And if you are on iTunes, if you wouldn't mind please leaving a review, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. Please visit our website at theirishdancepodcast.com. There's also a survey there where you can fill in what you think about the show so far. So look forward to your feedback and have a great day. Bye-bye.